Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Thunderdome Investing. I am your Thunderdome Investing analyst, David Gibson, and I have another account update video. At Thunderdome Investing, we have a 100% return goal every year. This is our week 2 update, and we are 42.8% of the way there. We had a pretty weird week last week, a lot of ups and downs. We dropped a stock, we added a new one, and we made some decent money. I'll be going in depth on all 3 of those things in this video. So be sure to stay until the end of the video to find out what our next big move is. As always, these videos are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research and talk to a licensed professional before making any financial decisions. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into today's video. Okay, since last week was our first week of the updates, I'm going to take those numbers and use them as a baseline to compare last week to this week. But before I dive into any of those comparisons, let me go over the stock that we dropped over the last week. The company that we dropped was Iovance Biotherapeutics. Last week, Iovance was part of a short squeeze that bumped the stock price up by over $2, from $2.27 a share at open on Monday to over $4.29 early morning on Wednesday. I felt like, at least for now, this was a good time to get out of Iovance and make some good money. So let's go ahead and break down the numbers on the trade. Originally, on July 10th, I bought 130 shares at a share price of $1.92, which totaled to roughly a $250 investment. And on July 23rd, I decided to get out of Iovance during this spike. I ended up selling all 130 of these shares at a share price of $3.78, which totaled to roughly $490. So my total return over these last 2 weeks in Iovance was about $240. I still believe that Iovance has some great developments and is still a company that is poised to become successful. But freeing up that capital and getting into our next company was my biggest goal here, which was buying into IO Biotech. IOBT was a company that I talked about in last week's video as a potential investment for the channel. And as we get closer to this early or mid-month August timeframe for their phase 3 trial update, I just find myself getting more and more excited about the future. But before we get into all that, let's talk numbers first. On July 23rd, the same day as my Iovance trade, I bought into IOBT. I bought about 130 shares at a share price of $1.93, which costed me about $250 all in. And for the sake of this video being an account update video, I might as well catch you guys up on how the stock has been trading over the last few days. Since July 23rd, the stock is up 6.7%, which has netted me a return of $17. So not too bad for the first weekend, but as I mentioned previously, the real movement that we're looking forward to will come in early August. If the phase 3 numbers are consistent with their phase 1 and 2 trial numbers, then the IOBT share price has a chance to go up very quickly. And I believe the likelihood of that data being good is fairly high. So IOBT is one that I will continue to watch very closely as we move into August. Next up, we have Anavex or AVXL. Anavex probably had the wackiest week of all of our investments. We saw some great movement through the middle of the week, going from $11.06 a share to almost $14 by Thursday morning. Almost $3 of movement in the right direction was super fun to see, but it didn't last long. By close on Friday, it was back down to $12.13 a share, which is still trending in the right direction, but you can always trend in the right direction a little bit more, right? So let's go ahead and see exactly how we did over the last week in AVXL. To open on Monday, July 21st, Anavex was trading at $11.06 a share. And at close on Friday the 25th, it was trading at $12.13 a share. So over that time frame, our position in Anavex went from $663.08 to $727.23, which gives us a return of 9.7% over the last week, or a profit of $64.15. I can't be mad at the channel's Master Blaster for going up $1 in a week, can I? Lastly, we have Candel Therapeutics or CADL. Candel easily had the quietest week of all of our stocks in this video, and it kind of is a reflection of just the boring week that they had. But as we have learned in the Thunderdome, boring isn't always a bad thing. Actually, it's kind of a good thing, but I digress. Candel closed on the 21st at $6.57 a share, and at the time of close on the 25th, it was up over $7, right at $7.02 a share. So over the last week, that translates to a return of 6.8%, or an overall profit of $27.83. Candel has been slowly but steadily rising over the past few months, and this past week was no different. We will absolutely take another quiet week that featured almost a 7% return. You stack a few of those up and you're doing really well. So let's go ahead and kind of wrap things up and get an overall outlook of how the last week went. Starting with the Iovance trade recap. As I mentioned before, on July 9th, I bought 130 shares for $250. On July 23rd, I sold all 130 shares for $490, netting a 96% return on that investment, or $240 profit, simply put. Add that onto the IO Biotech $17 profit over the last week, the Anavex Life Sciences profit of $64.15, and the Candel Therapeutics profit of $27.83. We made a total profit of $348.98 and a net return of 32.3% over the last week. So we're moving right along on our journey to return 100% this year, and I just can't believe in just 2 short weeks we are almost halfway there already. Stick along for the ride because we are just getting warmed up. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoy this type of content and you want to see more of it, be sure to like and subscribe. But as always, I'm David Gibson, and this has been another episode of Thunderdome Investing.